1 in 4 British people meet their spouse in a pub. Football was invented in a pub. My mate George came up with this idea in a pub just last night.
I got naan bread for you with curry the other day, and I think that should just be standard.
But despite pubs being the cultural backbone of this country, a pub dies every day. And that's no good. It's actually, yes, bad. I'm going to talk you through the history of pubs and the big changes that got us into this £7 pint smash burger hellhole. But not in a boring way. I'm going to talk about Phil Mitchell, Zante and pegging. Bear with me. Right, no fannying about, we're jumping straight in with the history. 43 AD, the Romans invade Britain and immediately think, Christ, this is bleak, we should get battered. So they opened a load of taverns catering to hard-working road pavers. Nowadays, if a road worker was drinking wine on the job, people would just be happy he was actually at work. But back then, they were seeing it off and paving the A1. Anyway, the Romans leave, and over the next 300 years, invaders come and go, but they all agreed that wine was Mediterranean woke juice, not suited to the pillaging and murdering they needed fuel for. So we make the first big change, and we pivot towards ale. So it all boots off in the ale era. At the time, there were no real downsides to ale. It was safer to drink than water, and it hadn't yet been hijacked by bearded IT workers that refer to people as folk. So ale houses started popping up everywhere. They were literally just a room in someone's house where strangers drank together, sort of like a modern day Afters, except instead of watching Sky Vegas on an HDMI lead, they were comparing gout. Ale was connecting the community. And this era of alcohol was uncharacteristically benefiting women of the time, partly because Stella and penalty shootouts hadn't been invented yet, but mainly because alewives were given a rare opportunity for independent income in the medieval time period. But our second big change was on the way, because naturally, as men got more and more boozed up and women became a little bit more empowered, we arrived at 957 AD, and King Edgar proposed pegging. Which I'll tell you all about after my sponsor. God knows why they've chosen me, but I'm glad they have. Give me 60 seconds. Do you like money but don't like interacting with other human beings? Same. Testerup will pay you for banging out a survey or testing apps such as this one with a hot elf, or this one with a cheeky goblin, or this one with an unnamed fish that has definitely not starred in any movies. First, sign up for free, then pick an app to test, then get playing, comb this woman's hair, sort this man's plumbing out, intrude on this couple and their lovely pie, but mainly get a bit of dong in your pocket. Easy. It's free, there's 3 million users, the good people of Trustpilot love it, and I love anything the good people of Trustpilot love. Get paid up to £80 per test and get paid out within 24 hours by bank transfer or PayPal. So in theory, this time tomorrow you could be buying an air fryer or something, I don't know, or an artisan bowl or a nice massage. Or so. Look, it's not my decision. Point is, it could be yours. Anyway, get involved, get some cash money, use my code. Test some games, answer some questions, stack some bread, use my code. Have a laugh, use my code. Use my code. Use my code. Anyway, long live Testerup. Link in description and comments. Anyway, pegging. King Edgar was firmly anti-sesh, and he had a series of anti-fun reforms, including pegged tankards to discourage binging. The pegs were meant to divide up the amount of a shared drink. You only drink one peg down. So much like modern day drinking, it was basically splitting the G. Ultimately, his attempts to make us drink less backfired. Everyone turned it into a drinking game. He also briefly limited the number of pubs to just one per settlement, hence the village pub, but again, this didn't last long. The big takeaway from this period was that it became clear that the growth of the pub wasn't something that could really be stopped. But to be fair to Edgar, he's no longer the top Google result for royal pegging, so not a total failure. With that said though, we took this victory and just completely took the piss. We invented new types of pubs called inns when someone, presumably a medieval BMW driver, suggested we should be able to drink near a road. And we also invented beer, which made pubs multiply even more. The cat was out of the bag, and we needed a real neek's neek to step in and put us in line, which was King Richard II. He comes in as sort of like a corporate consultant trying to make the country more efficient. He does all the usual stuff. He says low-hanging fruit, he sacks the marketing team, he makes it illegal to dump poo everywhere. But crucially for pubs, he makes it law that you need obvious visual signage such as Red Lion or White Hart, so that professional beer testers who are illiterate would be able to know where they're going. For clarity, I know that in today's world we refer to recruiters as illiterate professional beer testers, but these are two different jobs in two different eras. Anyway, his changes work. And yeah, pubs become a little less like Afters and more like a business, but they actually do become more popular, and by 1577 there's one pub for every 142 people. Britain was basically a sort of early modern Zante, but with even more helmets. If it wasn't for the fact that everyone had ran out of money and was covered in boils, also like Zante, this probably would have been the pinnacle of British life. Everyone was battered and all sorts of mad significant stuff was going on directly as a result of the pub. Pubs weren't just part of culture, they were shaping culture. An example of the cultural butterfly effect of pubs of the time would be, if pubs didn't exist, Shakespeare wouldn't exist, and Ben Kingsley would be Phil Mitchell. Bear with me. So there was this playwright called Christopher Marlowe, and he was just killing it. Could not avoid him. He was on every stage, every poster. Graham Norton. He was Ramesh Ranganathan in 2017. But unlike Ramesh, Christopher doesn't overcome an eye issue and become a nationwide success before settling down in Crawley. Instead, he visits a chaotic pub, gets in a scrap, gets stabbed in the eye and dies. Which ends the comparison, to be honest. Doesn't really work from there. But his death opened the door for Shakespeare to come in and drop classic after classic after classic. So to loop back to the point about pubs of the time, culture and the butterfly effect, the social unifying nature of pubs means Christopher Marlowe's hanging about in dodgy taverns, and if that doesn't happen, he doesn't get stabbed in the eye, which means Shakespeare's stuck doing crowd work, which means we don't get the Royal Shakespeare Theatre, which means Steve McFadden doesn't attend and get inspired to pursue acting, which means we probably end up with Ben Kingsley or Patrick Stewart playing Phil Mitchell, which doesn't really sit right with me, to be honest. I just don't think he'd have the correct chemistry with Ross. So anyway, to recap, after Richard's sneaky corporate reforms, pubs are in a healthy place. Yeah, there's a bit of murder here and there, but it's a social unifier and culture is being born out of them. Things are on track. But then we enter the Stagecoach era. So it's posh people on the inside and poor people on the outside, the exact opposite of the modern day Stagecoach. Pubs saw that when these coaches turned up, different classes of customer wanted to avoid each other, so they started creating public bars and saloon bars to filter people. Remember, this is before you could just whack up a big inflatable rugby ball and serve Stokes ketchup. You can still see evidence of this separation now. We still have some pubs with snob screens, which aren't just TVs showing the Six Nations, but old glass panels that divide the customers. Anyway, as this class divide grows, coffee, tea and gin all make their way here, but gin's the cheap one. So the upper classes are all tucked away, gacked up on caffeine, while everyone else is headed to Georgian-era off-licences for gin, and going through this weird, quirky phase of killing babies, actually, which I won't joke about because I don't enjoy Cards Against Humanity and taurine. Anyway, the gin crisis was a big moment in the history of pubs and was partly solved by this fella Hogarth. He was this big name in the time and he used to satirise English culture with these clever observations. I mean, it didn't rhyme or anything, but it didn't seem to matter. People loved him and he became really successful and famous. Anyway, Hogarth got the pencils out and observed that the affordability of gin was making people hang themselves, kill their children and saw people's arms off. Meanwhile, beer apparently caused people to do useful stuff like paint, build and balance a load of fish on their heads. Look, whether you think he was a genius or just a glorified Moretti artist with no crayons, he contributed to the Gin Act, which made gin less accessible, and the Beer House Act, which made beer cheaper. So the point is, yet again, the pub bounces back, continuing to shape culture. A perfect example of this would be the invention of football at the Freemasons Tavern, which has shaped our country hugely. No pub means no football, which means Gary probably follows Wayne to Ibiza and Ocean Beach is a refugee camp. But the problem is pubs were getting more and more socially divided, and before things could come in to address this, things got a little bit warry. Now look, I'm not a big war guy, but there are some positives to war. War gave us Carbonara, Call of Duty in 1917, which I was an extra in by the way. It also gives us more pubs, which on face value is great. Damaged communities get a hub with darts leagues, bingo nights and meat raffles where people compete to win a bit of chicken or a couple sausages. Basically anything that was too expensive to be the main prize on Pointless. But an accidental outcome of this good idea was that the saloon bars and the public bars had just been replaced with different pubs. Which look, some ways good, some ways bad, but it sort of solidifies the idea that there are different pubs for different people. There was even a push towards creating weird cone-shaped pubs designed so that you didn't have to speak to other human beings, which, look, I don't hate because I'm the kind of guy that does this. But if everyone acted like me, we'd all just be sat around mocking each other online, not speaking to each other, just taking the piss and stereotyping from afar and contributing nothing. Culture would be stagnating and everyone would be miserable. But that's unlikely to happen. The point is, post-war pubs are going well, until the next change, Wetherspoonsfication. This next big change will start off boring, but then I'll talk about Wetherspoons, which for some reason still seems to get people going. See, prior to 1989, pubs were owned by breweries, which meant the pubs couldn't really change much and could only sell approved beer. But while this is going on, the country witnesses the formidable rise of nightclubs, GAC, MDMA and Last of the Summer Wine. So to make pubs more competitive again, the beer orders come in to make it possible for pubs to sell other beers. This pissed off the breweries who sold to corporations and kick-started Wetherspoonsfication. So now, over half of all UK pubs are owned by big chain companies. Not all succeed. We all seem to have realised that there are better places to be than a Brewdog, like an Iron Lung. But Green King and Wetherspoons, or Witherspoons if you're old for some reason, have lasted the test of time, and are a big reason why your local pub looks like this. JD Wetherspoons was founded by Tim Martin. The JD comes from JD Hogg of Dukes of Hazzard, a large, greedy, bumbling, villainous cowboy, which is definitely a choice. And the Wetherspoons comes from Mr. Wetherspoon, an old teacher of his who told him he'd never amount to anything, like seemingly every rapper ever. For the sake of this, let's separate the art from the artist. It's reliable, there's no music, it's cheap, it's messy. It's essentially what the original pubs were, but with marginally less gout. But one pub closes every day. 2,500 closed during COVID and less than half of them reopened. Whilst there are 800 spoons in the country and they make 2 billion quid a year. There are many lies we tell ourselves in this country. That staring at McDonald's workers will speed things up. That Coventry and Hull really are the cities of culture. But the lie we tell ourselves about pubs is that we care more about local pubs surviving than we do about £1.29 pints. And fair enough, other pints are really expensive. I'm not saying boycott it, I'm certainly not, I'm there now. But we're overdue another change. I didn't actually expect that to be as miserable as it turned out. I was hoping to just talk about Hungry Horse and funny quiz names for 6 minutes. But here we are. I'm not slagging off all pubs, there's loads of great pubs right now. But if they want to stay alive, they've got to serve a good Guinness with the little Guinness logo in it that you can spill down your Guinness top while talking about the House of Guinness round the corner from the new London Guinness Open Gate Brewery experience. And that's fun too. But maybe it should be possible to be a bad pub. Maybe culture would feel a tiny bit better. I don't know what the solution is, just make pubs crap again. Thanks for all the nice words again, lads. Appreciate the patience. I'm doing all sorts. I've even filmed a TV pilot, which genuinely wouldn't have been possible without you. I'll probably have to switch it up a bit, and this style takes forever, but still, like, subscribe, join the Patreon. Let me know how I can remove excess earwax from my ears, because my NHS syringing appointment was unsuccessful due to dryness.